Hey everybody, welcome back to Lost Odyssey. Chocolate Milk here, and today we're actually going to be finishing up the Temple of Enlightenment just before we get to the boss here. So this is going to be a little bit shorter than the last video because we really took care of the majority of it last time, and this is actually the last little area. And again, it's nothing different. It's all these stupid platforms you gotta move around and go up and down and everything. There's still plenty of stuff to collect here though. This chest here is really important to grab. This has Oriculum in it, and that's going to be used later, so be sure to pick that up. And then turn this guy so we can get over there, because there's a big door over there we need to go through, which you can see on the top. And there's this chest. That one's kind of difficult to find unless you move the stuff around first. Again, just a component, but if you want to pick that up, then feel free. This area really, when you think about it, isn't really that long. I mean, this only took me maybe a half an hour after I had cut everything out of the recording, but it took me about 2.5 hours to record because of all the battles and things like that. And I think that's why people think it's difficult, is because of just the sheer amount of battles and how long the battles take, because the enemies are just so tough. But the dungeon itself really doesn't take that long. If you know what you're doing. The puzzles can be very, very annoying, however. And you can get lost very easy. Now back here in the Valley of Loneliness, we've seen this screen before, but we need to come back here because there's something that we need to grab. And of course we got the big old ladder climb that Kime is just oh so famous for. Or I should say, more or less, this game is just famous for in general. Alright, magical lock key, that will again be used later. We have quite a few of those now. And you notice there's an area over to the right, but we can't go there yet. So just ignore it and then climb back up the ladder. It's not enough that there's platform moving, but you gotta go up those long ladders too. And be sure to push that down. Do not forget that. It's very, very important. That will save our butts later. Alright, back to this Corridor of Timelessness. These all have really quite like dark and very, very depressing names. It's not like the Corridor of Happiness, Rainbows, and Sunshine, the Valley of Loneliness, Timelessness. This game has such a dark feel to it. And down here I think there's another door we need to find that will actually bring us to where we need to go next. I think this brings us back to the Valley of Loneliness again. Yes, this is just the bottom part of the Valley of Loneliness, and we need to do this part to be able to go back to where we were before. But the reason we couldn't go over to the right is because we have to move up these platforms to create a path, which is why I said to make sure to ram that other platform down, because you need that one, and then you also need these three. I mean, you know, Lost Odyssey, they just couldn't make these things really simple for us. Alright, so I'm just gonna make a quick save here because I've been recording for a really, really long time. And I definitely would not want to lose my place where I was. I've gained so many levels coming through here. I think I was about level 50, 55 or 56 or 50 something in the mid 50s, and now I'm level 80 or so, which is just crazy. Yeah, super good place to grind before the final boss, or if there's any area you're having trouble with. This is definitely the place to do it. Alright, so now we can come back here. And we're gonna go back this long ladder again. I can imagine they'd like put a slide in this game and just watch Kime slide down. That would be just so silly for this type of game. It would just take away from the mood completely. So there we go. So that's all the platforms. We wouldn't have been able to get over here otherwise. And this is our first jewel we need to collect. In order to finish up this dungeon, we need to collect both of them. This is the Jasper of Loneliness, and there's another gem we're going to need to collect that we will be getting in this video as well. And they're only accessible after you get to the Corridor of Timelessness, and after you've done a little bit of puzzle work. So that's going to be our next goal, is getting the other gem, so we can get the hell out of this place. I also really wish this game had a spell that you could use to retreat to the beginning of a dungeon so you didn't have to walk through. You know what I mean? That would be an absolute great feature for this game, because something like this dungeon where it's just so confusing, if you do screw up, it would just be so nice to just not be so frustrated trying to get back or something if you were really, really lost. And then just go and just warp out of the place instead of walking and trying to figure out all the platforms and stuff like that. But they don't. They also don't have turning off enemy encounters, which I kind of agree with, but I kind of don't. It would be nice for the areas where the enemies are really weak, if you need to go back there, like the Crimson Forest or something like that. But if you turned it off, then you really wouldn't get the much needed experience, because for the most part, grinding in this game really isn't easy until you get to this point, and then you just gain levels like crazy, especially if you have the double experience perk on. So unfortunately, when you make it all the way through this dungeon, you then have to go all the way back. What I'm doing here is we need to get one of the little platforms down in order to be able to move on. It was that platform that was up in the air, this one over here. This will bring us right back down to where we just were, but we need to bring it down in order to move on. So again, that's just kind of like a roundabout thing. It's basically you're doing a bunch of stuff to bring you back to the exact same spot you were just in, which is kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. Voila! Now we have access to a new area. Alrighty, there's another door over here. And I think that'll bring us to our next gem. Or closer to our next gem, at the very least. Alright, so this is the Precipice? I have no idea how to pronounce that word. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. Of Hopelessness. This is where the other gem is, and we've already been here. This is more or less the top floor of the area. And we had lifted up those platforms in the last video to get over here. So refer to the last video if you weren't too sure how to do that. This one is a lot easier to grab. As long as you have that one platform raised, this is just a hop and a skip, excuse me, over here. And that is the Emerald of Despair. And now with those two gems collected, we can get out of here. Or I guess I should rephrase that. We can get out of here anytime we want, but if we want to complete the area, get a final treasure hunt, and defeat a boss in here, then we have to do that. So now we can slowly start to make our way towards the final area of this place. Which is actually very easy from this point on. This requires essentially no platform turning at all. We just need to turn the one, and that's it. So once you have both of those gems, it's pretty much home free. It becomes very easy after that, because this is actually the top floor of the area. And there's the shrine there where we're going to place the jewels in just a second. We need to get the last treasure of this area, hiding over in this corner. And now we can go put those gems where they belong. Before I put them on though, I'm just gonna read you what it says if you're at all curious. People's despair and people's loneliness. It's basically exactly what they say they are. And I guess you need to put loneliness and despair together to create the open path, which is kind of silly. This place is so depressing, but as you can see, when you place the gems on the altar, it will bring us to the final area. To the deepest part of the temple. So all you gotta do here is just turn this one here to get to the end. I strongly suggest going back to save before you move on, because there is a boss here and he's quite tough. I'll be walking you guys through that in the next video though. I'm going to save that for next time. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll be seeing you all later.